Hare Krishna. Welcome. I'm glad to see all of you are back for another episode in the life of offending devotees. No, that's not right. In the life of not offending devotees. Now, we're still reading from my article. It so happens that the last two classes we didn't read at all because I was so excited and you were so excited we ended up talking about something else. And I'm going to begin this class talking about something else, a few things, and then we'll see where it goes. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is based on a story I told several weeks ago. And this is the story of the offense of Takaharidas by Ramchandra Khan. Any of you remember that story? Any of you out there remember what happened? Who Ramchandra Khan was? What did Ramchandra Khan do? How did he offend Takaharidas? Anyone remember? All of you attentive listeners. Of course, I'm not even looking at chat right now, so we have to wait till we get on the chat so we can see if you've answered that question. So who is the smartest of them all? Ya Devi. She wasn't there. Who else has a good excuse? Okay. That's a good excuse we'll accept. You don't know the answer because you weren't there. Of course, you can still know the answer if you've read the story, but Kremlin is hiding because he doesn't know the answers. Yeah, I can see Kremlin. He doesn't want me to call on him. Okay, I won't embarrass you any further, unless you want me to. No, I don't need to embarrass you. Okay, so what happened was, now this just goes to show how bad our memories can get. But maybe none of you heard the story. Now, I have to make a disclaimer here. I am allergic to Alachua from June through August, but it's still going on. So, I may sneeze a lot. And my eyes may look red and watery, which they probably do if you can see. And when I sneeze, you can bless me, but please bless me that I become a pure devotee. So when I sneeze, you can say, I bless you that you become a pure devotee. And so that way, the sneezing will kind of go along with the spiritual mood. How's that sound? Is that good? Okay. And I might have to wiggle my nose and scratch it and rub my eyes and do all kinds of other things that one shouldn't do in public. But I will try to control myself as much as possible. That may not be possible. So, back to the story. So Ramchandra Khan, he did not like Takaharidas. That was a big problem to start with. If you don't like a great devotee, immediately you're down the wrong path. And everything could only get worse from there. And it did get worse for him. So he didn't like it that Takaharidas was being glorified as the Nam Acharya. Because Takaharidas, his service was to chant the holy name. He was Nam Acharya, the Acharya, the teacher of the holy name. So how did he teach about chanting? By chanting, by doing it. 22, 23 hours a day, something like that. And he wasn't doing it for reputation. He was just doing it because he loved to chant, and therefore he was teaching by example how to relish the holy name, and also teaching the effects of chanting, because he was a pure devotee, a very elevated devotee. So, Ramchandra Khan, he had a very, very stupid idea. And his stupid idea was, we have to expose Takaharidas. Now, how do we expose him? Well, we set him up to fall down with a prostitute. So I'll hire a prostitute. I will send the prostitute to his secluded place. He's living in a hut in a secluded place, so there'll be nobody around to see, at least Takaharidas will think there's no one around to see. And this very, very beautiful prostitute will allure him. And Ramchandra Khan will have the paparazzi hiding in the bushes. So when it finally happens, then they'll pull out their cameras and shoot. Of course, in those days, I don't think they had cameras, did they? They didn't have cameras 500 years ago, did they? Excuse me. If they did, then we'd have photographs of Lord Chaitanya and the Goswamis. Anyway, so his idea was some form of paparazzi would be there, and then they would arrest him. So anyway, to make a long story short, rather than Takaharidas falling down with a prostitute, the prostitute became purified by hearing him chant, because he told her, sit and wait for me to finish chanting. So she'd sit for hours. He'd go, just a little bit more, I'll finish. So she got to hear him chanting, and gradually she became purified by his chanting. And eventually she moved into his hut and he left. They didn't get married. He left. And she became glorified as this great Sadhvi, who was also following in the footsteps of Takaharidas. Anyway, point is, that was a great offense by Ramchandra Khan, which did not hurt Takaharidas. It actually helped the prostitute, but it did hurt Ramchandra Khan. So, there's a connection there that Ramchandra Khan also ended up offending Nityananda Prabhu, because Nityananda Prabhu came with the traveling group and they came to his home, and he did not put up Nityananda at his home. He wouldn't even talk to Nityananda, but he put him up somewhere else, and he had a servant take care of him. So Nityananda was very upset by this. And indirectly, Nityananda, you could say, cursed him or predicted what would happen. So what eventually happened was that Ramchandra Khan was exposed for something he was doing, which was tax evasion. And it was found out. Now, why all of a sudden was it found out at this time? Well, we can say because of the offenses that he committed, the reaction started coming. So what happened was, it was found out, and the way the government was in those days, it was kind of, you take things into your own hands. So the government came, and what they did is they tied him up and his family. Excuse me. They tied him up and his family, and they pillaged his house. And in doing so, they basically destroyed it. They just took whatever they wanted. I don't know if they destroyed it while they were pillaging it, or if they destroyed it for fun, or just out of spite, or I guess whatever. But they did that. And then the whole time he was tied up, he was just watching this going on. He and his family. They just took everything, looted his whole home, destroyed it. And they went through the whole village, and they did the same thing. So the point that I want to make to introduce tonight's discussion is stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, which I will read for you now. So, listen carefully. Kremlin says, now I remember. Yes. Sometimes it takes hearing something 3 times to really get it. At least for me it does. Anyone else remember that story? Yeah, Devi, you weren't there, but anyway. So here's the verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Wherever an advanced devotee is disrespected for the fault of one man, everyone in connection with him suffers. I'll read that again. Wherever an advanced devotee is respected for the fault of one man, meaning the one man who disrespected him, everyone in connection with him will suffer. So what does this mean for us? In the Shastra, it is said, and we've discussed this a little bit, but I would like to elaborate on this. It is said, not only should we not criticize a devotee, but we should not listen to anyone criticize a devotee. That it is as bad to hear the criticism of a devotee as it is to criticize. And one of the things that the Shastra says, and I have it personally experienced, and it's not difficult to understand, is that when you hear criticism of a devotee, particularly an advanced devotee, it destroys faith in that devotee. And it can also destroy faith in general in bhakti. Because by hearing criticism of a devotee, particularly one who's practiced for a long time, we think if this devotee is practicing for a long time and he has so many anarthas, faults, and so forth, then we may begin to doubt the process of bhakti itself, that he's practiced it and he has so many faults and people are finding so many things wrong with him and he's doing so many abominable things and so forth. But in any case, if this person is someone who could help us by hearing blasphemy of this person, we will lose faith in that person at least. And that's not all of it. Krishna is not pleased when his devotees are criticized, and therefore he's not pleased when we listen to his devotees being criticized. Krishna likes it when his devotees are glorified, and he likes it when we hear the glories of the devotee. In fact, Prabhupada said glorifying the devotee is more powerful than glorifying Krishna. Now, the whole question comes up. Okay, well, the first question. Well, what do we do? We need, as far as is practical as is possible, to disassociate from those who are critical of devotees. And you will find, you probably have found, somebody who tends to be critical, especially if you spend a lot of time on the internet. It seems the internet provides more facility to be critical, because nobody really knows, or they may not know who you are, they may not see what you look like, and it's somehow easier to say something nasty when you type it than it is in person. At least I've seen that. People tend to get nasty when they're sending emails to one another. So we're all inevitably going to be surrounded by it, and even we as disciples of Srila Prabhupada, sometimes we heard criticism of Srila Prabhupada by his godbrothers. So it's everywhere. It's all pervasive. You may have a spiritual master. You may hear, unfortunately, others criticize him. He's not a real guru. Prabhupada never appointed gurus. I saw him. He watches movies, or he eats pickles. There's no end to what you're going to hear. A bona fide guru would not eat pickles. It's like he went to visit. He's a sannyasi. He went to visit his mother. If he were a real guru, he wouldn't have done that. It's just like endless streams of stool emanating from the mouths of the critics. So you hear it and you say, but I didn't say it, I just heard it. What do you do when you hear it? You try to stop that person from speaking that way, or you leave. That's what is the proper etiquette. That's how we're instructed. How would you stop somebody? You could tell them, I don't appreciate what you're saying, or I don't want to hear this. This is making me uncomfortable. It is upsetting me. I don't agree with you. I don't think this is proper. Please don't speak this way in my presence, or please excuse me. I have to go. I don't want to hear this. I can't hear this. This is hurting it's hurting my heart. It's breaking my heart. There's so many ways you can do it. In a peaceful, non-violent way, or you could show sympathy. I'm sorry to hear that you're so upset by this person, but it's upsetting me to hear you speak this way about them. I like this person's different, or this person's a devotee, and so forth. So that's important, to have some skill to be able to deal with it. In fact, I had to deal with this in the last 2 days, because there is a devotee who is very, 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 very critical. In fact, I have not heard this devotee say anything nice about any leader in ISKCON. Not even one of them. So, somehow or other, he connected with me under his non-devotee name. And then it became apparent who he was, and I had to politely ask him not to contact me, because I didn't appreciate what he was saying. I didn't agree with what he was saying, and I would not like to discuss with him what he was saying. So that's kind of what precipitated this discussion, because it's a real problem. And we do get negative reactions, or karmic reactions, for listening to blasphemy. And if you study Nectar Devotion, it's right there in the Nectar Devotion, how to deal with it. Of course, it says if you're a Kshatriya, then you can take other measures than aside from leaving, but I don't recommend, like cutting out the person's tongue. But that might be something a bit too severe, and I don't think we have any real Kshatriyas, and I don't recommend that. But the idea is to stop that person from speaking that way, and if you can't stop the person, then you should go away. As Krishnadas Kaviraj said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, for the offense of one man, everyone becomes polluted. So in this case, it was so bad that everyone in the village, everyone connected with this person, suffered. So knowing that, what they could have done is tried to stop Ramachandra from his offense, because they would know we'll all suffer for his offense, because we're connected with him. I guess he was running that village, so we took responsibility. Of course, this opens up all kinds of questions. Do we as citizens of America take responsibility for the killing of innocent people in countries upon whom we have declared war? And there is some connection, but of course as devotees we've given our life to Krishna, so we're okay as long as we give our life to Krishna. Now, I want to take this to the next sequential level. Unless, can you leave mentally? Okay, let's take some questions. What's wrong with pickles? I think ultimately I was kind of being facetious, because, well, you could say, in theory, any food which sits for more than a few hours is considered in the mode of ignorance. So pickles, they're sitting for more than 3 hours. Of course, there are Vedic pickles also, lemon pickle, mango pickle. It's called achar. But I was referring to dill pickles, and someone might say, and I was being facetious, might say, well, he's not a bona fide guru because he eats pickles. Like, it's the end of the world if you eat pickles. Or he eats pizza, and pizza's not Vedic, and how could he be a guru if he eats pizza? In other words, they're just like nitpicking anything, or, so-and-so, I heard so-and-so Maharaj reads Newsweek magazine, and therefore he must not be a guru. In other words, if you're trying to find fault, then, there's a million things you can find fault about, and pick, things that are inconsequential. So that I was kind of being sarcastic. Okay, Bhakti Carol says, if you are temporarily stuck in someone's company, can one mentally tune them out? Does this work at all? Problem is, yeah, you can. That may work to some degree. I would say, get yourself unstuck. If you're around someone who is criticizing devotees, especially devotees that you have respect for, especially devotees that you may be taking shelter of, then I would say you shouldn't be around those people. And can you mentally? You can try, it'll help to some degree, but I would say it's going to be fairly disturbing. If you can't get out of it, what can you do? You can only ask the person, say, please, in my presence, don't speak that way, it's upsetting me. In a nice way, ask them. Can you leave mentally from their talk? Yeah, that's possible. Depending what they're saying. I think, in a sense, we always have to leave mentally. Otherwise, we'll leave, but we'll remember what they said, even if we leave physically. Yes. How do you leave mentally? Does this work? You could also be understanding of why the person may be critical or feel sorry or compassionate on the person who's criticized, and thinking he's unfortunate to have this critical mentality, and I'm sure he's suffering because of it. And you can take that attitude, perhaps mentally tune it out through compassion, but the principle is hearing it is not good for you. I mean, sometimes you can help the person just by understanding why they're so upset and empathizing with that. I know you're upset. I know this person has done things that upset you. You must be feeling really this or that. But please, I don't think it's going to help either of us to continue to talk this way. Let's be proactive. Let's be positive. Something like that. So, in addition to be mentally leave it, try to see if you can get them to stop talking. It's difficult to indulge in unpleasant company, yeah. And association of devotees is foundational to advancement, and particularly association with advanced devotees. So we have to be careful about associating with people who can be very unfavorable and critical. Now, if someone is critical or unfavorable but they don't voice it, they can be favorable to you. You can have a relationship with them. That's another thing. When they speak it, of course, someone could say, well, you're still being affected because of how they think, and that may be true. But particularly when you're hearing it, that is where the Shastra says you should not hear it. If someone is a good devotee but they have some issues with somebody else, that's one thing. We all tend to have issues, but if they're actually verbalizing it and you're hearing it, it's going in your heart. It's contaminating your heart. And I'm sure if you've ever heard that, you experienced that. I have heard someone mention, probably a lot of gurus eat pickles. They probably do a lot of things that you'd say traditionally gurus didn't do, Indian gurus didn't do. And so, but it's like, if there's 1,000,001 things you could find fault with that may not be faults at all. And even if they are, what advantage does it have? We're going to talk about that because it's an important point. Should I find fault if something's wrong? We'll get to that in a minute. Hard to show compassion to vulgar people. It is. But sometimes through that compassion, you can get to them. There's a story, a funny story I heard, that this person was studying, I think I told this a while back, you may not have heard it, this person studying martial arts. And so he'd graduated, got his black belt, and he was always looking, at least subtly, he was always looking for this opportunity where he could use his martial arts. And one of the things they teach is to pacify people mentally without physically fighting. But anyway, he's on a bus, he's sitting in the back of the bus, and this guy who's drunk and filthy gets on the bus and he starts harassing people and stealing from people, pushing people around, pushing people off their seats so he can sit there. And, the whole bus is in an uproar. Everyone's afraid of this guy. And so this martial arts guy said, oh, now's my chance, And he's thinking in his mind how he's just going to, annihilate this guy. Jump on him, smash him, because he could do all that. But before that happened, there was this old man, and he kind of brought this rogue thief scoundrel. He brought him over to him, had him sit down, and he just started talking to him. Where are you from? How are you? What's wrong? Can I help you? And, in a matter of 5 minutes, this big monster was crying on this guy's shoulder. And the martial artist was thinking, he says, actually, that's martial arts, so you can control someone that way. So I'm not saying everybody can do that, everyone's empowered to do that. I'm just saying that sometimes, you could actually get to the heart of a person, the heart of their problem. Like, why do they need to criticize? And maybe through empathy, get to that heart. And maybe they'll just like open up and reveal their frustration. I'm so frustrated because of this and that, and I see this going on and that going on, and I think it's the fault of these other people. And a lot of times you let them talk, and eventually they'll just go, I'm just being a fault finder. They'll come to the conclusion, I'm just fault finding, and they'll be quiet. And I've done this. I've heard people out. I knew they were good people, and they were criticizing. They weren't really being offensive. They were just being critical. And I let them talk for days. And after about 2 days, he said to me, actually, I'm just being critical. It's just my fault. I'm just fallen. And he came to that conclusion. So, sometimes if you see the person's not really, really offensive, it's just their frustration is coming out in their criticism, you might be able to deal with it. So, I can't say everybody can deal with it. But, if you think you can, if you're up to the task, that's one way of dealing with it. If not, move out quick and fast. Get out of there. What did they say? There was that movie. There was that movie. Oh, it was in England. It was a famous movie in England. And they had all these songs. And they had this saying for getting out fast. I can't remember what it is. Anybody know? A British saying? Chip chop. Yeah. What was that? Sound of Music. Chip chop means get out. So, if someone's blaspheming and you can't help them, then chip chop. Move on before your heart gets chip chopped. Now, Yadevi says, I tend to be very self-critical. That could be good or that could be bad. I think being self-critical is important as long as you don't beat yourself up. In other words, being self-critical in a positive way to see what's wrong and how to improve. And we began this class by talking about that. But to beat yourself up is really, it's not productive. So, you really don't want to do that. This world is so negative. It's so bad. Why make it worse on yourself? It's already bad enough. There's that story that one devotee ran to catch up with Prabhupada as they were going on when Prabhupada was on his morning walk, and he didn't have any shoes, and Prabhupada saw that and said, where's your shoes? And he said, Prabhupada, I was late. I just ran to catch up with you. And Prabhupada said, there's already enough austerity in Krishna consciousness. Why make it more difficult on yourself? So, Krishna consciousness is already difficult. Why beat up yourself? Better to uplift yourself. Protect. I was just thinking, one of the things that Krishna does, if you're a sincere devotee, is he protects you from yourself. So that's a symptom of Krishna's mercy. If you see that despite all your faults, you're still getting internal encouragement. That encouragement, that's what Krishna gives. So we can tend to be very negative about ourselves, particularly when we're failing, constantly failing. We're not reaching our desired goals, and we just feel like cow dung, to use the Vedic terminology for another word that I can't mention on this show. And you feel like cow dung. So, Krishna does not make us feel like cow dung. We make ourselves feel like cow dung. Right? Krishna says, I protect my devotees. Konteya patijani hina me bhakta pranashati. Krishna says, declared Arjuna, I protect my devotees. What does that mean? He protects us. That means from within, he protects our bhakti. So that even despite there's all this negative stuff going on internally, negative stuff externally, he protects our bhakti. So that our bhakti overshadows the negative. So that's what Krishna does. So why don't we help him? We're like on the negative side. I'm the worst. I'm the worst. Hare Krishna, spiritual sky. Glad you made it. I'm the worst. I'm this. I'm that, and that, and that, and that, and the lowest, the dirtiest, the stupidest, the most undeserving, and so forth. So we're, digging our grave, and Krishna's trying to preserve our bhakti and push us along. So I think it's good to be critical in a positive way. Here's my problem. What are 3 things I can do to work on it? let's work together on this, Krishna. I'm ready. Please help me. Be positive like that. Of course, if we're self-critical, we may also be critical of others. Sometimes we'll see our fault in them and then become critical of them. Now, because there's two questions I want to go on with. What do we do when we're being criticized? How do we respond to that? And what do we do? And we touched upon this a little bit, but this always comes up. What do we do when we actually objectively see a fault in another devotee? So the reason I'm bringing up what do we do when we're criticized is because in dealing with this devotee I was speaking about, it was very upsetting to me, the things he was saying. He wasn't saying directly about me, but he's interpreting what I was saying. And I just got really, I didn't get really disturbed, but I got disturbed. And, he was only a few sentences away from starting to point his finger at me. And so, how do we respond when we're being offended? So, this whole class we're talking about how we should not offend devotees. How do we respond when we're offended? Because when we're offended, someone says something about us, to belittle us, to criticize us, what's the instinctive tendency? I don't know about women, but I know I can only speak for men, and then in women you can tell us how you feel. But what's the instinctive male response? Any of the men, can you show me your fist? The instinctive male response, shut up or I'll punch you in the face. Now, whether you do that or not, internally that's what's going on. I guess women, your instinctive response is shut up or I'll slap you in the face. We don't like to be criticized. Okay, so we'll and maybe in answering Bhakti and Carol's question, we can go more deeply into this. So at least first I want to establish the instinctive response. Even though we're devotees, we have an instinctive response because we're conditioned. I mean, not always do we have it, but often we do. Something happens, and what's our instinctive response? Our instinctive response tends to be something within the modes of nature, something similar to how people who don't practice bhakti would act. Then we look at that instinctive response somewhere later, a minute later, an hour later, a day later, a year later, 10 years later, look back at it, and realize that wasn't good the way I reacted, and then start responding differently. Generally, that's how it works. Now, if we can reduce the time between instinctive response and Krishna conscious reaction, then we're doing better. If we can get to of course the goal is to get to the point where there's no materially instinctive response to defend ourselves. So, let's go to Bhakti and Carol's question. I just want to establish the fact that this is a real issue for all of us. We don't like to be criticized, we react. Someone criticizes us, we criticize them. We say something nasty about them. What do they know? What did they ever do? Well, who are they talking about? Who do they think they are? How could they say that? I never did that. Like that. So, Bhakti and Carol says, I have a question. I was criticized and it hurt. I could not overcome the hurt, so stayed away. What does that mean? Stayed away from the temple? Is that pride or what? It could be many things. But what I would say is, and we taught this in the forgiveness class, not online, but in our forgiveness class, that every one of us has certain expectations in how we would like to be treated, or not even expectations, needs to be treated. I need to be treated with a certain amount of respect, or honor, or gentleness, or kindness, or compassion. And then we're often treated the opposite way, and then it's just because we expected one thing and we got another thing, we're hurt. Is that pride? You could say indirectly it's all pride, because pride is connected to false ego, but it may not be. It may be other things. You might be betrayed. That person might have betrayed you. You might have been expecting them to act in another way, and so it might be more betrayal than pride. But that's a question you have to ask. But I read something so nice. I should have brought this. Boom, 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 boom. Knocked my head. I forgot. Actually, this show starts at 8 o'clock, and my wife was making dinner, and she didn't finish till 7:30. So they gave me 12 minutes to eat, and then get ready, and then rush out here. So, but if you're all lucky, and my brain still works next week, I'll bring it. But I'll try to paraphrase it, what Prabhupada said. There was a devotee who was discouraged, very discouraged, by his godbrothers who were criticizing him. So this relates to you, Bhakti and Carol, maybe not exactly. And Prabhupada said something very wonderful, very liberating. He said, other devotee was saying, I was not encouraged by it. I think he was saying, his godbrothers are criticizing him. Prabhupada said, also, I was never encouraged by my godbrothers. Or, we know that some of Prabhupada's godbrothers criticized him. And he really didn't get any help. He really didn't get any support. So he's basically showing this devotee that he was in the same situation as the devotees. This devotee, he was not being appreciated, he was being criticized. Nobody was facilitating him. And Prabhupada said something to the point of, but I didn't let that disturb me, because a devotee does not allow anything to disturb his Krishna consciousness. And isn't that true? That the Krishna consciousness is so important. We can't allow anybody or anything or any situation to deter that. So it sounds like, Bhakti and Carol, you got really deterred by what happened. And you got so hurt that you just didn't want to associate with the devotees. So, but at the same time, we need devotees. So Prabhupada's point was, as a Vaishnava, we'll never become discouraged, because yes, we could become hurt. I'm sure Prabhupada was hurt also. I mean, he's spreading Krishna consciousness. He's asking his godbrothers for support. He's asking everyone to preach together. He was trying to encourage them. He said, I'll work with you, we'll manage your temples, whatever. And he never got it. But he did get criticism. I mean, some praise was there from some of them, but there was also criticism. So, I mean, Prabhupada was obviously hurt on some level, obviously so-called discouraged, but he said he never allowed that, because the way he said it is, we're Krishna's servant, and so we have to continue our service. So somehow, what I would suggest to you is not denying that you're hurt, but somehow being able to mend it or work with it so that your bhakti doesn't suffer, and whatever you have to do. And you can remember Prabhupada's words that, a devotee will not allow himself to be discouraged. Really, the way I like to think of it, and you could see if this works for you, the way I like to see it, is that at any time that anything discourages me, where I just I don't feel like chanting, or I don't feel like doing service, or I just feel like zoning out, or just I have the blahs, the mode of ignorance is overtaken, whatever it may be, the thought that saves me, the first thought that comes to my mind said, rather than looking at the causes, well, so-and-so said this to me, so naturally I feel this way, and because I feel this way, naturally I'm hurt, and because I'm hurt, naturally I don't want to associate with devotees. And now that I'm not associating with devotees, then naturally I'm not inspired. And because I'm not inspired, I don't feel like chanting. Because I'm not chanting, I'm following the mode of ignorance. Because I'm in the mode of ignorance, I don't feel like going, this circular reasoning, right? So you could reason it out just to all make sense, Yeah, that all makes sense. But what I like to think is, the bottom line, it's Maya's trick. This is all Maya's trick. So to make sense of all that, it's Maya's trick. So in that same letter, this devotee written to Prabhupada said he has doubts in philosophy, and Prabhupada said, Maya will always attack through doubts in philosophy. So what you're saying, Carol, is not a doubt in philosophy, not directly, but in some subtle way you could see how you put everything together, and the conclusion is you don't want to associate because of A, B, C, and D happened. So it's nice to think. I find it nice to think. No, this all makes sense, but still, it's Maya's trick. And I need the association. Okay. And so Yadevi says, yeah, Krishna tells us not to get disturbed. But my point is, we do get disturbed. And my point is, but after we're disturbed, it's okay, you got disturbed, they hurt you, it's fine. That's expected. And, until you transcend and become like Takahari does, you're going to get disturbed. But the point is, how do you deal with that disturbance? How do you, how do you respond to it? That's the real thing. So Krishna says we shouldn't get disturbed. I got disturbed. But now I go back to his instruction. It says, Krishna's saying, don't be disturbed, be tolerant. So then I have to go back and think about it. Okay, how can I be tolerant? Now that I completely flipped out, lost my head, I sat home crying for 3 days. Now I'm trying to get my act together, to get myself together. How do I do it? What's the Krishna conscious way? So we always have to get back up and move forward. Yeah, exactly. Defeat them with our superior kung fu. Well, defeat Maya. And another thing, like Carol, when you're in a situation like that, another powerful meditation is, what am I supposed to learn from this? Not I'm hurt and I'm discouraged, but what's the lesson? And then you might start thinking, well, the lesson is that I shouldn't be so discouraged when these things happen, and I'm in the material world, this is the nature of it. It's very easy to become discouraged when we expect people to act in a certain way. And I was discussing this with a devotee, and he said, I don't have expectations, because I don't have expectations for people to act in a certain way. I never get resentful. So it's really true. I mean, I can't say that you go around with no expectations, but he can do it, and he finds that works for him. But it's really true. The more expectations you have of a person, the more they can let you down. And the less you have of them, the less they'll let you down. So you want their association. Yeah. I had hope for friendliness, instead was accused. I just felt unwanted there. Yeah. That's difficult. This is also happening with another friend of mine who's being, due to some misunderstanding, being prevented from getting the association of devotees. So how is he dealing with it? Well, he's become very absorbed in he does a lot of service at home, a lot of deity worship, and so it's like this dual things going on. On one hand, he tells me, well, I'm really upset about all this that's going on because I'm not able to associate with devotees. On the other hand, he's telling about all the bliss he's merged in doing his deity worship and his puja. He's got, Gaurnitai. He just got Gaurnitai deities. He just got Shalagram. A number of shalagrams, he's getting more. He just got Brahminical initiation. So he's really absorbed in bliss in doing that service. But on the other hand, he's really upset that he's not been able to associate with devotees. And I don't want to discuss the details. So, he's somehow they're able to do that, even despite that negative situation. So it's our service to be able to deal with difficult people in difficult situations. It's just a reality. We're not perfect. Even advanced devotees may not be perfect, but Krishna says, don't see the fault. See that they're engaged in bhakti, see what their motive is. And people aren't always the way we want them to be. They're not always the way we expect that they should be. That's just the way it is. And a lot of times, I really use that in myself. I really use that to help my Krishna consciousness, because I look at the world and I look at the people and I say, even devotees sometimes they speak behind one another's back. Even devotees are sometimes critical. Even the devotees are sometimes this and that. And I think that the devotees are the best people, and even they are. And I think, what? This world, it's so bad. I don't want to be here. It's contaminated. So I use that as a means to encourage me. There's a story. One devotee kind of secretly arranged to take sannyas and get Prabhupada's approval. Although Prabhupada told him, your wife must approve. And then he said, well, she'll never approve. Or he said something like that. So, if I wait or I don't wait, she'll never be ready. Or he said, or else he said, she's okay with it. So anyway, they went ahead. Or they did go ahead, or they were planning to do it. And she came to Prabhupada, and she was huffing and puffing. She was so mad. Said, how could this happen behind my back? I never approved. She's going on, just steaming. And then, in the midst of it, she told Prabhupada, I hate everyone, and I hate everything. And Prabhupada smiled. He said, oh, very good. You're making spiritual advancement. Would you ever imagine anybody saying that? And Prabhupada was totally serious. Excuse me. He was totally serious. He said, oh, you're making spiritual advancement. Very good. Very good. So, in a sense, you could see you're hurt. I'm so hurt. It's so bad. Even amongst devotees, it's not the way I want it. This world is so bad. I hate everything. I hate everyone. I can't take it. So, what a good position. Now you're completely detached. So that's another way of taking it. Yes, you felt bad because you want their associating. Yeah. It's just, we're all conditioned souls. And relationships are difficult. And yeah, people will misunderstand one another. New Testament reference says if we love God, we'll be hated and despised. Of course, we don't want to be hated by devotees. I returned to help someone else, and this person explained why they acted that way, and it was so understandable. They were under stress. They had serious things happening. They apologized. Very nice. Still wonder why I couldn't bring myself to go back before then. So, you ask a good question, and I think I would suggest that you try to answer that yourself. Why? Ask yourself, why couldn't I bring myself to go back before? Why was I so hurt? And why was I held down so much? So I think that's a good, and we'll stay tuned next week, and we'll get Bhakti and Carol's answer to that important question. So if you could meditate on it this week, and then remind me next week, and I think that'll help all of us. Why couldn't I bring myself back? Why did I stay away? Why did I allow myself to become so upset or lack understanding, and then keep myself down? Prabhupada said that we are the greatest obstacles to our own bhakti. And I find it amazing. It's like we make it hard for Krishna to work with us. You read Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's saying, I give you intelligence. Krishna's saying, I preserve what you lack. I preserve what you have and give you what you lack. I give you what you need to go ahead in bhakti. So like Krishna's doing all this for us. He's facilitating. So we should go along with the program. And don't dig our own grave. So Krishna has to pick us out of the grave. So, his pushing us forward is just getting us to zero. We don't want that. So Krishna, he's helping us. He's protecting us. He's working with us. So we just have to work with the program. Does that make sense? Go along with Krishna's program. Okay. So now let's get back to the point of, as I said, when we are offended, we want to fight back. Is that good? Should we fight back? How many in favor of fighting back? Raise your hand. How many opposed? Raise your hand. Okay. Yes, everyone's opposed to fighting back. I mean, there may be occasions to fight back, but we're speaking in general that we have been criticized rightly or wrongly. We have been offended rightly or wrongly. So how do we deal with it? Well, as we discussed in our forgiveness workshop or forgiveness classes, that the tendency to feel resentment brings this paradox. And the paradox is that the person who's upsetting us then becomes the person upon whom our minds become obsessed with. True or true? Now I've just been upset. This person said something or did something to offend me. And now all I'm thinking is how this person offended me. All night I'm thinking how he offended me. I wake up, I'm thinking how he offended me. I chant my rounds, I'm thinking how he offended me. I eat breakfast thinking how he offended me. And so we're just carrying this person with us. So, is that the way we are meant to react? I don't think so. It certainly doesn't help bhakti. You say, oh, but that person's a devotee. But you're not thinking favorably of the devotee. You're thinking about retaliating. You're thinking how much you don't like the devotee. You're carrying the potatoes. Remember the potato story? You're carrying the smelly potatoes. So, at least we should look at that when we're offended and how we're going to respond. Otherwise, you know, it's like we're offended. Now Krishna's saying, hey, Mahatma, hey, Bhakti and Carol, hey, Kremlin, hey, Yadevi, and hey, Spiritual Sky, and hey, all you out there. Here's a chance to upgrade your consciousness. Because now you feel like retaliating. So, let's see if you can overcome this. Let's see what you can do to overcome this. So then it becomes a challenge. It's like reality TV. It's like, this is Krishna conscious reality television. We're going to line up 5 devotees and we're just going to offend them. We're going to just do everything we can to agitate them. And it's going to be reality KCTV. And then we're going to see these great devotees screaming and yelling and getting mad at one another. And then we're going to, everybody's going to watch it and go, wow, look at that. She thinks she's a great devotee, but look how she's acting. And we're all going to go, look at all the envy and jealousy coming out, and the anger and the hatred. And go, shit, what kind of devotee is that? And it'll be the biggest new reality KC television show, right? Because isn't that what reality TV is all about? Watching all these people in their worst moments with all their jealousy and envy and anger and hatred and towards one another and just like bathing in the nectar of it. Isn't that what it's about? So, rather than go there, then what do? We say, oh, Krishna, you're giving me an opportunity to upgrade my consciousness. Because now I'm confronted with this strong desire to either get back, or maybe you don't have a desire to get back, but you're just disturbed, and you're allowing this disturbance to kind of infiltrate into your mind and heart and to your life, and really you should just get over it. Now, something really nice to meditate on. You want to Spiritual Sky, you can't watch the show because you don't have TV. We'll show it on the internet. Maybe Krishna.com will do it. This is how they'll support their whole preaching. Reality KC TV will offend devotees and see how they react. Yeah. So, totally forgot what I was going to say. Just see. We have choices how we want to react, how we want to deal with it. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Isn't it interesting? If you think, just think a moment to the time when you were like 8 years old, 6 years old, and you're with your best friend, and you and your best friend got in a big fight, and you both went home super mad, and you vowed to the heavens that you would never speak to that person again. You would never see their ugly face ever. Does that ever happen to you? That happened to you, Uddhava? Yeah, it happened to me all the time. How long did it last? What was like the longest it lasted? Like 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe till the next morning, if that long. So how is it when we're kids? We just like drop it. It's like the relationship is so important to us that we just don't allow things to stand in the way. We just like drop it. It's like it's not important. It's just. If any of you have kids that age, or if you ever do have kids, You're going to see that. No matter how upset they get, they can be screaming, yelling, huffing and puffing, and within 2 minutes they can be laughing and joking. What do? We go days, months, years, lifetimes. So, if you hold a pencil in your hand, and I say, Bhakti and Carol, please drop the pencil. And you say, I can't. And I say, what do you mean you can't? Just open your hand. You go, I can't. I say, what? Are you paralyzed? You say, no. I say, can you open your fingers on your hand? You say, yeah. I say, well, why don't you do it? I can't let it go. So, when we're feeling this resentment, or we're feeling anger, or whatever it is that's hurting our Krishna consciousness, we have to be in this mood to realize, well, it's in my power to I can let it go. I can move on. I can get over it. I can do that. And that's what we're supposed to do. That's how we're supposed to see it. Now, easier said than done, right? But at least if we enter with that mood or that strategy that I can let go of this, I can move on. This is what Krishna wants me to do. It's going to be better, proactive, enthusiastic. At least make those moves. And generally, that can get you out of the mess in short order. Otherwise, it can go on for a long time. It's like Prabhupada didn't want us to take these things so seriously. Sometimes we take things so seriously. If we don't take it so seriously, we're much happier. It's just, okay, it happened. It's not the end of the world. Let's move on. That's how Prabhupada wanted to do it. And I told that story. This one devotee came in. He was like morose, depressed, unhappy. I don't know what it was. He said, Prabhupada, I have to talk to you. Prabhupada said, fine. First, let's have a kirtan. So they had a kirtan. After the kirtan, Prabhupada said, so? Everything's okay? He said, yeah, I'm fine. So sometimes we just need to dive in the kirtan or eat some rasgula or something, some nice prasadam, and it's just like drown your miseries in sour cream sabji fried in ghee. When we were young devotees, typical Sunday feast is they would take sour cream and ghee and then make the chants, throw all the spices in it. First they deep fry the cauliflower potatoes. This is how you cook if you don't know how to cook. Use a lot of ghee, a lot of milk products, and even a little sugar also. So, picture this. You've deep fried all these vegetables in ghee. They're soaking in ghee, dripping in ghee. And then you get more ghee and you put it on the heat with sour cream and you stir it up with a little sugar and a lot of spice, nice spice. Throw your spices in, your chants, your chili, your ginger, your cumin, your turmeric, your hing, and then you take your deep fried sabji dripping in ghee and you throw it in the sour cream ghee and you mix it up. And then you eat that sabji, all your problems, they're all gone. And you drink some nectar, and then have some malpura. If you've never had malpura, malpura is wonderful. You have some malpura, and then you'll be so happy after that. You forget who offended you. You'll forget their name. If you eat a lot of that sabji, you'll forget everything. And you'll be soundly asleep at night. So we absorb ourselves in bhakti, and then it's like all of a sudden nothing is that important. Dance in ecstasy in the kirtan, and then whatever happened becomes less of an issue. Sorry to make it sound so simple, but sometimes Prabhupada did simplify it because we get complicated, so he simplified. Say, no, it's easy. Not always, but I'm making it simple tonight. Okay, Sandeep is with us, and okay, have compassion, yes. Have compassion, forgive them. Yes, love your enemies. Wow, Sandeep's in Karachi. Whoa. Is it true Karachi is considered the dirtiest city? Or is there another city that's worse? Or is things better there? Maybe I heard it was the dirtiest city 20 years ago. I mean, how is it in Karachi? Are there a lot of devotees there? Is everything okay there? Somehow or other, I don't know, is it like dangerous there or what? You know, when the devotees went to Karachi first to preach, Prabhupada said, you go to a Muslim country to preach, I'll take the dust from your feet, I'll put it on my head. That's what Prabhupada said. We know it's not easy to live there. You could just, so Bhakti and Carol saying, well, maybe it's some reaction, something I did in this life, something I did 5 minutes ago in another life. You could see it that way. Yeah, difficult to go back. I don't know, so you have to look and say, well, what did I do to create that? How did I create that? These are all important questions. Spiritual Sky says, I would not have gone back. Where would you have gone back? Did the Spiritual Sky? It's the only shelter. But no, she went back and she resolved it. That's the point. She somehow resolved the problem. But we need association devotees somehow or other. But we have to be good association so we don't disturb them. So it sounds like you did something to disturb them. You said something I don't know. So you have to consider all these things. Now, an important point, which I'm going to throw out now and we can't talk about, is this, and I'm going to throw this out because we're going to talk about it next week. Many times, you may have thought this way, and others have expressed, that if we take this attitude of being forgiving, for being humble, turning a blind eye, so forth and so forth, then Spiritual Sky likes animals over people. Yeah, dog is man's best friend. So people will give this argument. Okay, Mahatma, you're saying all this stuff, all well and good, but what it's doing, or potentially it's doing, or all it's doing, is just making devotees blind so that they can be taken advantage of, because in the name of humility, they'll feel guilty and people above them will exploit them. In the name of humility, they'll be kind, they'll take offense, they won't react, so they'll lose their sense of judgment, they'll be taken advantage of, they'll lose their sense of discrimination, people will exploit them, and then additionally, somebody may be doing something wrong, but because of what you're preaching, Mahatma, you're just getting them trained to see it's not really wrong, only see the good, and quoting so many verses, that devotee, that don't see their fault, see the good quality, and then a devotee transgresses their position of authority, or they do something which is against the principles of bhakti, and you don't say anything. Or you may not even see it because you're just going, you're such a great devotee, you're so wonderful, I only see the good in you, I don't see any bad in you, I just see the good, my heart's been changed, I just forgive everybody. And then people will say, you're just a dodo, you're just like, your brain needs to be fired up, it's not working, you're not activate that part of your brain. You have to see with a good eye, but you have to see with a bad eye as well. One good eye, one bad eye. You can't let this happen. You got to call a spade a spade. You got to point out the fault. So we're going to discuss that next week. Is that a good topic to discuss? Okay. Thank you all for attending. Now you can be thinking about this I'm bringing, aside from Carol's homework assignment. She's going to answer a few questions. You can be thinking about this, and we can discuss this. So, is that true? Will we be taken advantage of? How are we supposed to just be like, Haribol, you're the greatest, I'm the worst, and whatever you say is perfect, and you do no harm, and everything's my fault, and I only see your good qualities, and myself I only see bad. So we'll discuss that. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna. We will see you next week, same time, same station. Hare Krishna.